Japan doesn't like tattoos. It's something you hear all the time on the internet, and although there is maybe some truth to it, it certainly gets pushed very hard by both Japanese locals and international travelers. And that may be because, uniquely, Japan has another famous subculture that is closely linked to the idea of tattoos that gives it that rather negative stigmatization: Yakuza. As insane as the phrase, "if you have tattoos in Japan, people will think you're a Yakuza," may sound out of context, it's genuinely surprising and shocking just how much this almost rumor mill has existed within Japanese culture, even through this thick veil of miscommunication and overreaction. But over in the West, getting a tattoo is seen as something that is celebrating the individual, and in some instances, as normal as getting your ears pierced. So why is it not the same in Japan? So I decided to get to the bottom of it all by putting myself in the shoes of the artists who give tattoos and the customers who get the tattoos. Are any of the stigmas surrounding tattoo culture in Japan actually true? Why do these stigmas even exist in the first place? And at the end of it all, will it convince me to get a tattoo of my own? Let's find out. But before we begin, a quick word from today's sponsor, Sakurako. You guys should know by now who Sakurako are. They've been sponsoring the channel for about a year now, but in case you missed out, let me explain. Sakurako is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local snack makers across Japan. Each box coming with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware. Each box comes with its own monthly theme, and this month, being the month of March, we have the seasons of Sakura. Cherry blossoms, the one thing that everybody looks forward to as springtime rolls around in Japan, and we have a bunch of Sakura themed snacks right here. Look how many there are, oh my goodness! You can try something sweet, for example, some Sakura manju. I actually freaking love Sakura manjus a lot. Oh, this one's so cute, oh my god. Look at this one. On the inside, the paste in there is absolutely divine. Each box comes with its own tea pairing as well. And naturally, being the season of Sakura, we're gonna have some Sakura tea, which I will say with any kind of Sakura flavored snacks, this is the best kind of tea to pair it with. They didn't put this on accident. This is to really enhance that taste palette. You feel me, boys? And as mentioned earlier, every Sakurako box comes with its own special tableware as well. This month we have this beautiful Sakura printed glass. Each box, of course, comes with its own booklet that has a bunch of information about the box itself, the snacks inside of it, and other information like allergen information. All of that and so much more in this month's Sakurako snack box. So what are you waiting for, boys? Go down to the link in the description below to check out Sakurako for yourself. If you use my coupon code on screen right now, you can get yourself a little bit of a discount at checkout. A big thank you to Sakurako for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get on with the show. Before anything, let's address one very common misconception about the history of tattoos in Japan. A lot of people think tattooing culture started with the Yakuza, but that's actually not the case at all. Archaeologists have found pottery and figurines depicting people with tattoos, and even preserved remains of humans with tattooed skin that date back as far as the Jomon period, some 10,000 years ago. Now granted, during this period of early humanity, tattooing was most likely used for spiritual reasons, such as shamanistic rituals, similar to other cultures around the world, like the Maori of New Zealand, the Nuba people of Sudan, and even the ancient Egyptians. It wouldn't be until much later in the Edo period that tattoos within Japanese culture started to become more commonplace yet complex, often being used on criminals as a form of branding to mark them as offenders and used as a symbol of shame. One might look at this fact and go, oh, so that's why the Yakuza are brandishing all of these lavish tattoos. It's because they were criminals, of course. Well, it's interesting because criminals weren't actually the ones who inspired Yakuza tattoos. No, if anything, it came from an occupation that was far from any criminal activity, one that actually went out of its way to save lives on a daily basis. The source of inspiration was from firefighters. Fire hazards and arson were fairly common during the Edo period, and firefighters, or hikeshi, were seen as a noble occupation, especially back then. So much so that many hikeshi would brandish their family crest or coat of arms onto their uniforms and sometimes directly onto their bodies in the form of giant arm or back tattoos. Not only was this a sign of devotion to the hikeshi family one would be associated with and a proud status symbol to show to the common folk, but it also had a very important practical function of identification. In the unfortunate case that a hikeshi would lose their life in a fire, the family crest tattoo would ultimately be used to identify an individual, even if the rest of their face and body was dysmorphed and unrecognizable. Certainly a morbid reason, but the Yakuza absolutely fell in love with this idea, so much so that they decided to copy it for themselves and use tattooing as a symbol of pride and devotion to their clans, and thus the once positive and prideful image of tattooing that used to exist very quickly turned into a negative one within Japanese culture. But even during the more negative modern times, there are those who have been dedicated to the craft of tattooing right here in modern day Japan for many, many decades.
先ほどもおっしゃったと思うんですけど、もう30年彫師やっているじゃないですか。やっぱりその結構日本の今の現代のタトゥー文化って昔のタトゥー文化と結構変わったと思うんですけど、どう変わったと思います？
入れてる人も多いし、彫り師も増えてるよね。どんどんなんか多様化してるし、いいんじゃない？
いや、いいと思いますよ。それをなりわいにしてるからもちろん。この30年の中でやっぱり、まあもちろん日本に来る外国人も増えたと思うんですけど、そのタトゥーを入れる外国人も増えたと思うんですけど、日本人も増えたと思いますか？
日本人も増えた。
それは昔と例えばなんか年齢層が変わったとか、その掘りに来る人柄が変わったとか。
年齢層が変わったとは感じないけれども、まあ変わったといえば年配の人も増えた。若い人はね、20代30代40代は多いけども変わらず、例えば50代とか60代とか、例えば子育てが終わって一段落してとか、なんか会社終わって退職して、でこれから好きなことやろうみたいな、その時に今までずっと入れたかったけど、
仕事上入れられなかった
入れられなかったとか、家庭の問題で子供のこととか考えて入れてなかった人がもうやっちゃおうみたいな、そういう人も増えたような気がします。
やっぱりその日本でのやっぱタトゥーって結構いろいろな偏見とかってまだあるじゃないですか。やっぱりまだまだ世間に認められないとか、彫り師っていう職業柄も認められない部分とかもあったと思うんですけど、という偏見が多分あると思うんですよね。やっぱりまだまだ世間的にもタトゥーはダメなものだとかっていう考え方まだまだあると思うんですよね。例えば温泉に入れないとか、海水浴行けないとかプール行けないとかっていう、そういうルールって日本独特だと思うんですよね。
独特。
それでやっぱりその彫り師っていう職業もちょっと狭まった環境なのかなっていう考え方があるのかなと思うんですけど、どうですか？
でもね、よく見ると世界中は結構似てて、やっぱり古いというか、なんて言うんだろう、伝統的な考え方と新しい考え方っていうのはどの国でも必ずあるから、それがタトゥーに対してオープンなような国であったとしても、固い考えてるのはまだ残ってるからね、別にそれ否定する必要ないし、日本だけがこういう過酷な状況なわけでもないし、彫り師になるのが難しいとは思わないけど、別にどの国だろうが、どんなね反対されようがなりたいやつはなるからね。
その考え方が一番だと思いますよ。やっぱりそのこうきさんは結構いろんな人に彫ってきたと思うんですけど、このタトゥーがちょっと印象的だったなっていうのってありますか？
タトゥーが印象的だった？
そうですね。タトゥーもしくはこの人ちょっと印象的だったなっていう。
みんな印象的だよ。みんなそうか個性的だから、やっぱりタトゥー入れる うん、やっぱりこうなんて言うんだろう、みんな強いからね、自分が強いからねみんな、やっぱそれぞれに個人が印象的とかタトゥーのデザインが印象的とかじゃなくて、やっぱそこつながってるから、俺の頭の中で、例えばね、これ大げさな話、名前思い出せなくても顔とタトゥーは覚えてたりするわけ、タトゥー見れば全部がその記憶が蘇ってきたりするから、その彫ってる時に話したこととか、みんなそれぞれ思い出があるよ。
コウキさんの中でこのタトゥー彫るの俺好きだなっていうのってあります？
日本をモチーフにしたもの、その表現方法は何でもいいわけ、その伝統的な和彫りのスタイルでもいいし、それが例えばリアルスティックでもいいだろうし、それがニュースクールでもいいだろうし、何でもいいんだけども、
じゃあ逆にこういうタトゥーだけは俺彫れないなっていうのってあります？
彫れないっていうのはないけどもでも今までやってなかったもの、を挑戦するのはめっちゃ楽しいよ。めっちゃ大変だけどね。
日本で彫り師になるのって、その過程で何が必要なんですか？
でも俺は師匠を持った方がいいと思う。
コウキさんは師匠いたんですか？
もちろん今も健在だし、バリバリ彫り師として活躍されてるし。
師匠の下で具体的に何を練習するんですか？その彫り方とか。
彫り方もだし、でも一番最初に習うのはやっぱりその人としてどうあるべきかみたいなとこからスタートするから、もちろん技術的なものも絵の描き方とかも、でもそもそもその師匠につくってことはその人の絵が好きだからついてるわけで、やっぱその人の一番ね、その人に近づくように真似るところから、要は師匠がいるってことは自分の道を狭めてくれる。もし自分で一人で勉強してもがき苦しんでるぐらいだったら、師匠に道を狭めてもらって、この道でなんていうの、最短距離で導いてくれるから。だから、昔の考え方だけど、白いもの、師匠がね白いもの黒だって言ったら黒と思えてる、本当にそのままなの。その方が楽なの。いちいちなんでこれはこうなんだろうとか、こうあるべきだとか、いろんな悩みとか彫り師やってると出てくるんだけど、そんなことやってるぐらいだったら師匠の言う通りに動いてどんどん進んだ方が正解なんだね。で後から振り返った時にあの時の自分の答えっていうのは自分でもう見つけれるから、後から。
コウキさんの中で一流彫り師に必要なものってありますか？
やっぱり絶対的な技術、絶対的な安全性、あとは経験。もちろんそれは人間性の上に成り立つものだけども、あとはまあ個性だね。個性も大事だし、
年々と日本のタトゥー文化も着々と変わっていってると思うんですけど、今後の日本のタトゥー文化をどう思いますか？
いや、わかんねえよ。
それかコウキさんの中でやっぱ日本のタトゥー文化この方角に行ってほしいなっていうのがあれば。
いや、みんなやりたいことやればいいんだけど。
Before we start asking around for the opinions from people with tattoos, I wanted to get a different perspective on being a tattoo artist, more specifically from the Western world. So I flew all the way to Los Angeles, California to talk to a prominent tattoo artist helping to bring Japanese culture to the West.
How long have you been doing the whole tattoo thing?
This year is 12 years.
12 years? Is that long for like a tattoo artist?
No, I think a lot of people do it for life. So I've met people, in their 60s that are still tattooing.
Oh, damn.
Especially in Japan, I think a lot of artists, it's just kind of like the way of life once you start.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I wanted to interview you because you have basically been like the pusher of like anime style tattoos and like Pokemon tattoos and stuff, right?
Yeah, I think it all started with clients kind of like just giving me more freedom, and it's subject matter that I'm really into, so I think throwing out the ideas and them being cool with it is honestly it's been the best thing.
See, you put it that way, but I feel you're being awfully humble about the position you're putting, because I mean, like, my girlfriend's a massive fan of your stuff as well. I've been wanting to get a tat from you for ages now. She was like really excited when she was like, oh, is this because like you're meeting Dan, right? Like that's sick as.
I'll tell her I'm not as cool in person.
You've been to Japan a couple of times now?
Yeah, this will be my 4th time coming up.
You've kind of seen, I guess, the tattoo culture, or I guess, let's say the lack thereof, the tattoo culture. As a tattoo artist yourself, what do you think about that difference in culture?
I think it's really interesting, especially being based in LA. I feel like it's more rare to see someone with no tattoos out here. They're kind of like the outlier. And the first time I went to Japan, I started becoming a little more self-conscious of how tattooed I was. You know, you kind of look out at everyone if you're in a crowd, and being the only tattooed person, it's just so strange.
Yeah, that's true. I feel though, like, especially in like places like Shibuya and like Shinjuku now, like you're starting to see a lot more younger people with like tats and stuff.
Definitely, yeah. The first time that I went, I saw maybe 2 people. Actually, two people exactly.
I remember exactly what they looked
Yeah,
like.
I do, because it was so rare.
Yeah.
And this last time we went, I was definitely seeing more and more youthful tattooed people, which is cool.
Have you done any like tattoo work for like Japanese people before?
Yeah, I mean, I tattoo anyone who emails me that wants to get tattooed. So
Yeah. I wanted to get your, I guess, input on, I guess, a new change when it comes to like laws surrounding tattoos in Japan. It wasn't until recently that there was this like massive court case that happened with this tattoo artist in Japan. Apparently he got in trouble because up until that point, tattooing in Japan was considered like a medical practice, and he didn't have a doctor's certificate.
Right.
And so there was this whole contexture of like, okay, well, is tattooing considered like a surgery or like a medical practice, right?
Yeah.
And so he went all the way up to court to basically fight, and luckily he won the case. So now in Japan, tattoo artists don't require like a doctor's certificate or any kind of like, you know, PhD or doctorate or anything like that. What do you think though about just that whole debacle of like that even happening?
I remember hearing about that, and I actually saw a lot of, I guess you could say like panic. Oh no, they're gonna require every tattoo artist to be a doctor. And I'm looking around my peers like none of us are gonna be doctors, dude. So when he won the case, I thought it was great, you know, because tattooing, especially in Japan, I think has always been sort of like taboo and underground and counterculture. And I think that there are like some parallels to tattooing in the US. You know, it used to be bikers and like pirates. You know, nowadays, like, it's not just about branding yourself, and that's something that's awesome about anime. Like, you can get something that you love or that, you know, kind of helped like mold your youth, and you can carry that with you, like, as a good reminder, or, you know, it might remind you of your friends or just the best times. So I think it is a positive thing.
What do you think about the persisting rules concerning tattoos in Japan? Like, for example, you can't go in a hot spring.
For me, as a foreigner, I think when I go, I try to just be as respectful as possible. And if that's the culture, you know, I try to approach it from a place of like understanding.
Do you think, in your eyes, Japan will ever get to the point like it is in America with tattoos, where it's like, if you have them, then it's all good. It doesn't like affect anything in your life, or it doesn't affect anything in other people's lives. There's no like restrictions or anything like that.
I think if it does get to that point, this might be bold, but I would say that anime tattoos are going to have a huge part in that.
I've noticed that even just within like the past maybe like 5-10 years, especially here in America and like Western countries, like I feel there's a lot of people now getting like anime tattoos and like Pokemon tattoos and stuff like that. I would say before that, people were still getting anime tattoos, but I feel it wasn't as commonplace as it is today.
Right.
Have you noticed that as well with your clients?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. When I first got into anime, it was kind of right at the same time that I was like starting to look at girls, you know?
Yeah.
And it was something that it's like, all right, don't tell her that you watch anime, don't tell her you play Pokemon.
I'm trying to be cool.
And now it's like, it's totally different.
Yeah.
I think that social media probably plays a pretty big role in that.
I guess to end it off, like, if you could address the entirety of the Japanese population when it comes to tattoos and how you feel about them, what is something that you would say to, I guess, address that particular situation that we're in when it comes to Japan and tattoos?
I would say that beauty is skin deep. If you take the time to get to know someone, there's not really any difference. I would say the only difference is that when someone has tattoos, you can maybe tell a little bit more about their personality, you know, be like, this guy likes Demon Slayer, or whatever it is, but we're just people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment as well. All right, well, it was awesome talking to you, man.
Thank you.
So now that I finally have a better understanding of tattoo culture from the artist's point of view, the question now remains, What do the people with tattoos actually think about the changing tattoo culture here in Japan?
あなたにとってタトゥーって何ですか？
個人的には、アクセサリーの感覚で入れてるんで、別に意味とかはそこまで気にしないで、体にここに入れたらバランスよく見えるとか、もう体の一部として結構体のバランスとか見ながら結構時間かけて入れてるものなんで、
パーマネントアクセサリーみたいな。
そう
ああ、なるほどね。
指輪つける感覚と同じ。
あ
でも一生つけてるって感じなんだけど。
タトゥー結構なんだろうな、タイムカプセルみたいなものですかね。入ってるものがその時に一番大事だったものだったりとか、これは忘れたくねえなみたいなっていうタトゥーが多いから、ほとんどそうだから、そのカバーアップとかそういう気持ちじゃなくても、ああいう時昔はそういう気持ちだったんだなっていうのをこう掘ってるから、別になんか例えば曲の歌詞もあるし、別にそのバンドを今聴いてなくてもあの時聴いてたし、あの時大事だったなっていうのもあるし、全然音楽とも関係ないものもあるけど、なんかその時その時すげえ大事だったものを掘ってるイメージだよ。
じゃあ結構一個一個に意味が持っているっていうか、
そうだね。好きなもの、好きな、その時なんか見てこう思い出せるようなものが全部。
What are your thoughts on tattoo culture in America?
Oh, it's like chill. Like if you don't have a tattoo, you're a weirdo. Like not really, but like nowadays, like every person has a tattoo. It's kind of strange to not have one, and usually if you don't have one, there's like, I'm waiting until like I have a special moment, or like most of the time it's people who are like afraid of commitment, because that's always like the thing, or like I haven't found something. Nowadays, like it's like almost like a conversation starter, like at a bar, like especially for me because I have anime tattoos. People are like, yo, is that Demon Slayer or whatever? And then they show me their shitty tattoos. No, I'm joking. It's usually a lot of like very traditional style tattoos. But now you're seeing like wacky styles, and people are going out of like the normal textbook tattoos, and now you see some really cool stuff.
最初にタトゥーを彫ったのは何歳
？20歳の時、2012年の4月かな。
でそれはやっぱりその日本人としての抵抗ってありましたか？
まあ両親はあるよね。でも自分はもうなかった。でその掘った理由もその親友がその時病院にいて、ちょっとこの先どうなるかわからないっていう状態で、結構一番やばい状態の時に自分がツアーで東京から離れなきゃいけない。状況的には結構危ない状態で、自分もちょっとわからないなっていう中で、ファーストタトゥーは20歳の時になんか、戻ってきた時に彼に見せられるようなものと、そいつが俺もしもう本当ワーストケースでいなくなっちゃった場合に、そのあいつがまだいる時にまだその一生自分の体に残るような、証が欲しくてタトゥー入れたから、自分が日本人だとかはもう何も考えてなかったね。その時は
20歳だったっけ
？20歳
が21ぐらいの時で手
が最初なんだ。
そう
結構ハードコアだね。
そう
日本人としての抵抗っていうのってありましたか？
それはもちろんありましたね。やっぱりね、温泉とかも入れなくなるし、あと仕事もいろんなオフィスとかももう入れないじゃん。だから結構でそれも一部としてというか、それも理由として手に入れたんだけど、結構性格的に何かうまくいかないと逃げるタイプだから、手にタトゥー入れたらもう絶対ファッションの仕事したいってもうずっと高校生の時から決めてるから、ファッションから逃げないように、オフィスワークとか入れないように手に入れてるんだよね。今でも後悔してないけど、もうファッションに今デザイナーやってるから、そこは後悔しなくてよかったけど、いい感じにできてよかったんだけどって感じ。
ちなみに両親はタトゥー賛成派、反対派？
いやもうめっちゃ反対してて、で大学の時に入れてたら、もう大学払ってくれてたんだけど、それも全部なしにするってめっちゃ言われてたから、もうピアスとかは OK だったけど、タトゥーはもうかなりエンジだったし。
でも分かる、うちもそうだった。
そう、で入れた瞬間めっちゃ怒られた。
でもやっぱりその両親が日本人だったゆえに、やっぱ両親はちなみにタトゥーは賛成派反対派？
もう反対だねめっちゃかっこいい。俺だって家ずっと寝るシャツだもん。長袖しか着てないもん俺。
今でも
もうバレてんのに。
それは両親がもう本当に見たくないからっていう
で俺が多分思ってるから、家帰る時とかで家族のなんとか会う時はもう必ず長袖。でも最初はなんか俺隠せてると思ってたんだけど、めっちゃバレてて親に。
それはもうその自分の中でこれ両親が反対してるからちょっと見せたくないなのか、もうそれはもう両親の方からいやちょっと家にいる時は見せないでっていう。
両親も何も言ってないし、なんならもう OK なの全然。なんだけど
自分への配慮みたいな。
そうなんかそこでなんだろう自然だし別に長袖ってそこまで考えてるわけでもないけど、知らない間にずっと長袖着てる。
まあでも顔周りに入れなかったらまあ自分の体だし、そこはちゃんと考えながら入れなさいって。でも逆に私がタトゥー入れ始めて、お父さんがめっちゃ入れ始めたから
そうなんだ。
逆にすごく好きになってくれて、私のタトゥーを、なんかこういうなんか、まあ、今まで見てきたタトゥーってやっぱり意味があって、いろんななんかとか入れてる人しか周りにいなかったから、私みたいにラインとかこういうなんかもうシンプルなミニマルなデザインとか入れてる人いなくて、で私がこういうデザイン入れ始めて、お母さんもなんか可愛いねとかすごい言ってくれる感じになったから、逆にまあ
結果受け止めてくれたっていう。
受け止めてくれたし、よかったのかなって私は思うけど、両親のそういうなんか固い考えを変えられたから。
I think the one thing you'll hear a lot of people who don't have tattoos say to people who have tattoos, it's this argument of, yeah, but it's going to be on you forever.
Dude, like, not really though. Like, I know people are like, oh, it'll be on you forever. It's like, you can get them lasered off. Yeah, it's going to hurt like a bitch, but like, it's never forever. Once you get one, I feel like a lot of people end up getting more and more to the point where it's like I might have some on my body where I'm just like, probably would have liked this something different or placed differently, but I don't really care.
I mean, if we're being real, like, I'm kind of using this documentary as an excuse to get a second one.
Yeah, exactly. So. Don't be scared of commitment, and don't be scared to just like tattoo whatever. Like, I know a lot of people are always like, yeah, this one is like a grandfather clock because it represents time, and it's like, dude, just get whatever. Like, this piece I have on my my arm is literally just a piece that they posted, and they were like, I want to tattoo this, and I'm like, that looks cool, I'll do it. Like, why not?
ちなみに両親はなんでタトゥーが反対なのかっていう説明は聞いたことある。
でしかも簡単じゃん。タトゥーで歴史はこう、まあ、暴力団っていうか、このなんだろう、歴史っていうよりはこのうちらが生きてきた中での歴史だと、こう暴力団とかヤクザとかってすごいシンプルな点と点をつなげちゃうから、もう簡単じゃん。もうなんか整理しちゃうじゃん。別に自分たちは入れるわけでもないし、もうずっとそういう風にメディアをこう見せてきたから、まあじゃあそうなんだよねみたいなぐらいのところで思考は止まってる。その自分の自己表現だったりとか、その、サブカルチャーだったりとか、音楽のサブカルチャーで、タトゥーのサブカルチャーで、パンクとか DIY とか、そういうのがいろんなのがあって、そういう中でもタトゥーっていうのはすごくこうセンターピースだったりあったりとかもするけど、それはもう全部関係ない。
でやっぱり母の若い頃とかも特にタトゥー入れてる人いないし、そういう考えはもう昔から、まあ、当たり前、でだってうちらの世代でみんなそういうアートタトゥーとか入れ始めた感じじゃん。それからまあ前も入れてたかもしれないけど、私たちの世代で人気になった気がするから、両親はねそういうもう考えで生きてきてるというか、そういう考えで育ってるから、そこはなかなか変えらんないんじゃない。でお父さんも一応クリスチャン、だからその神に与えられた体にピアスとかタトゥーとか入れちゃダメっていう考えのおばあちゃんにそういう育てられてるから、そういうのもあったのかな。日本人じゃないけど、
日本人独特の抵抗とクリスチャン独特の抵抗の両方。
その組み合わせがあったからより厳しかった。
On the contrary, then, what do you think about the Japanese tattoo culture from the perspective of someone who's not Japanese?
It's weird for me because I get kind of both ends, where like if I'm at a bar and sometimes I'll have people recognize anime tattoos and they're like, oh, this guy's chill, and they talk to me like, oh, Sugoi, Tanjiro, and then like all the girls are like, oh my god, Mikey from Tokyo Revengers. I even had a guy who's well into his 50s noticed my JoJo tattoo, and he's like, "You are very cool," and he showed me his phone wallpaper and it was kakyoin. And I'm like, all right, this guy's based. But on the flip side, when I'm in public, like on the trains, sometimes I'll notice that like people will try to avoid sitting next to me sometimes, and I can tell it's like they're a little intimidated maybe, and maybe that's just because of how I dress, how I look, whatever, and that's fine. Like I'll notice like there's clearly 2 empty seats next to me, and people are just like, I'm gonna stand instead of.
I mean, that may also just be like, you know, the gaijin seat. That's as they call it.
True.
Like you could be completely clean of tattoos, and it might still happen.
That's true. But I think like
I don't think the tattoos are helping.
Tattoos don't help. It's funny because I'll make people like break character sometimes. Like I went to get like a phone case, and the employee's like, you know, doing all their spiel, and then they're like, "Is that ace on your fingers?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like,かっこいい。
そのタトゥーを入れているのに関して、その他のまあ日本人からとか外国人の方とかとの交流の中でポジティブなこととかネガティブな経験とかってありましたか？
まあネガティブはもちろんやっぱりおばあちゃんとかおじいちゃんとかすぐ言うよね。それかなんかコンビニの店員さんとかにめっちゃ見られる。財布いじってるともうガン見されるから、それもなんかでまあポジティブでもネガティブでもないけど、やっぱり目立つんだなって思うし、個人的にはなんかもう見慣れてるっていうか、タトゥー入れてるっていうのも忘れちゃうけど、結構ガン見されると、あ、そっか入れてるんだって時々思うけど、
別に嫌な思いはしない。
別にそこは嫌な思いはしないかな、見られても。それはだってハーフとしてもう見られてるじゃん、私たちって。目立つから。だからその見られるのは慣れてるっていうか、だからタトゥーで見られてるのかピアスで見られてるのかハーフだから見られてるのか分かんないじゃん。それはもう
確かにね。
だからもうそんなに気にしてないというか、まあ当たり前じゃんっていう感じになっちゃってるから、そこまでなんだろう、タトゥーに関してはタトゥー見てるんだろうって思ったことないかな。
一番あるあるはお子さんと歩いてる親とかがこう、お母さんいや気になるわけじゃん。お母さん何これみたいな、いやダメみたいな、それはダメよみたいなのは何回か電車とかだねとかはあったりとかするけど、でも別に俺は例えばそういう場面があると子供にその子に向かってかっこいいでしょみたいな言っちゃうんだよね。よくないんだけど、そのすごい親からしてる何やってんだってなでしょみたいになっちゃうから俺的には別にネガティブじゃないけど、でも絶対ポジティブな風には捉えられてないんだろうなっていう認識はある。だけどやっちゃえみたいな感じで言っちゃう。
なるほどね。ちょっと一つの抵抗みたいな感じだ。世間に対しての
かっこいいだろみたいな、なんかそのもしお子さんとかがねそういうのがあれば、そのサウナって結構そこに関してはダメなところもあれば OK なところも結構あって、そういうプールとかではダメだけどサウナでは結構入れずにバー入れてる人たちもいるから、そういう文化っていうのは少しずつこうオープンになってきてる場所もある、肌を見せる部分で、だからあんまないかな俺は。
いや温泉大好きだからそれはちょっと悲しいけど、まあ、プライベートの温泉もあるしファミリー用の温泉とかもあるから、まあそこはどうにかできるし、温泉かタトゥーって言ったらタトゥーだから、タトゥーは絶対入れたいっていうかタトゥー大好きだから、それでまあ温泉普通の温泉入れないのはまあ悲しいけど、それでまあタトゥー全部消すって言ったら絶対消さないし、もっと入れたいし、そこは別にかな。あとプールとかあんま興味ないから、私はそこは、いいかなっていう。
What was your first tattoo?
It would be the ship from Cowboy Bebop, and then I ended up adding more to the arm, and it was always like anime manga themed, mostly manga. The left side of my body is all like anime stuff, and then the right side I'm just doing kind of traditional work. But yeah, it was just like I got one and then I just got completely addicted, because it's always the first one that's like
the scariest.
But what if it hurts like really bad? Like what if I tap out? Like what if I look like a... And then you get it and you're like, oh, that was easy.
What was the most painful one?
I'd say none of them were really like super painful, but there was a part that was like behind my leg here that like I had a kanji written like super bold, thick, brutal, worst pain ever.
I've heard from other friends who have tattoos that where it's like the skin is kind of close to the bone, so like fingers, knuckles.
Yeah, fingers are pretty
stuff.
brutal. I did actually, this is one thing I'd recommend to some people, is numbing spray or numbing gel. I did numb my hand, and this is something I want to mention to anyone getting tattoos is don't let the old heads of tattoos like scare you into like not getting what you want. It's really annoying. It's almost like gatekeeping. It's like, no, you must feel pain. It's like, shut the like, who cares? I numbed up my hand. It's almost like you just feel the pressure of like the needle in your bone, which was like weird. But then I noticed I didn't like put enough. So as soon as like he went to this side, I'm like, oh, that hurts.
日本に対するまあタトゥーに対する日本のなんだろう文化的な考えは改善した方がいいと思いますか？
ちょっと諦め半分からの、自分諦め半分な考え方なんかもしれないけど、そういう影があって、そういう影でうちらは入れてこう見せ合ってとか、あ、これ新しいの入れたんだ、おいいねみたいなっていうのは、ちょっと影の中でやってるから、魅力があるのかなとは思う。
じゃあ逆にもうなんだろう、公が全員タトゥーいいよねっていうよりかはちょっと隠れてやった方が、もしくはいいのかなっていう考えで合ってる。
そうで、入れないと思う。魅力を感じないと思う。みんながもうほんと T シャツのように、ほんと T シャツを買うようにタトゥーを入れ始めたら、それは、自己表現としての魅力が一個薄れる気がしていて、だからこそまた別のものがまた生まれるはず。新しい影が。
今後のタトゥーに対する日本の文化をどう思いますか？
まあオリンピックでちょっと変わると思ったけど、あれもなくなっちゃったから、今後どうなるのかって言ったらちょっと難しいけど、で日本って結構変わる、なんかいろいろ変わるのに時間かかるから、まあ、私たちが40歳頃にはみんな受け止めてくれてるのかなとはちょっと思いたいけど、でも、いやでもそこまで難しいか、60とか70かな、どっちかって言ったら。
いや変わりたいと思ってる。変わってほしいと思ってる。
変わってほしいとは思ってるね、だって今はもうだってアートとしてみんな入れてるじゃん。そこは悪気っていうのもおかしいけど、そのあっち系のタトゥーではないじゃん。だからもうアートとして認めてほしいし、まあ私もそのアクセサリーとして入れてるっていうことで、アクセサリー感覚で見てほしいっていうのはやっぱりあるよね。
やっぱ偏見は消したいっていうのはあるね。
Since you also know a lot of tattoo artists here in Japan and also in the States, would you say that there is, I guess, a negative aspect to the tattooing culture in either country?
I think in America it's super like, again, it's like the old heads of tattoos. They like to gatekeep shit, which is really cringe. It's like you must feel pain, no numbing. It's like all your tattoos must have meaning. Like it's cringe. Like I think that's slowly going away. As for Japan, I know a lot of artists here and they're all like chill. It's almost like whatever you want. I think they just appreciate that you as maybe like a foreigner want to get a tattoo here, because I think that's like really cool and special. And most of the time when you're getting a tattoo, you're getting something from their style. Like, so they're just appreciate you coming and getting something that's from their like portfolio basically.
じゃあやっぱりそのなんだろう、県の中でタトゥーを彫ったことに後悔ってしたことはありますか？
全くないね。
全くない。
全くないし、やっぱり入れてよかったなとしか思ってない。例えばこう、じゃあ子供が生まれてそういう、プールに一緒に行けない、まあもちろんなんか着れば行けるけどとか、例えばそういう、学校の行事とかでそれがもしかしたら他の人にバレていい風に見られないとか、そういうものはマジで2秒ぐらい考えるけど、その2秒が去った後は、いやでもこっちの方が大事だよね、自分をキープすること、自分のアイデンティティをキープすることの方が大事だよねっていう、彫ってある自分の体と自分の方が好きだから、後悔は全くない。
まず何が変わらなきゃいけないっていうアイデアとかってありますか？
いやでもそれはもう何かが変わるとかじゃなくて、もう時間しかないと思う。だってこれからもうどんどんアートタトゥーが増えてって、でそういうのに見慣れないと変わんないと思うんだよね。だってまだ今まで、だから今でも隠す人が多いし、だからそのだんだん増えてって、もうみんな入ってるのが当たり前になってから、みんなのその考え方がみんなというかその年寄りの考えが変わるのかなって思ってるから。海外とかアメリカとかってもうみんな当たり前に入れてるじゃん。だからもうどっちかって言ったら入れてない方がレアだから、日本もそうなんないと、まあタトゥー入れてない人と年寄りとかそういうまあ古い考えの人たちの考え方を変えるのには、ほぼみんな入れてないと変わんないのかなって思うかな。
はい ありがとうございます。
Do you think then that I guess the current like weird stigma that Japan has as a whole around tattoos is going to change over time?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I think with the amount of foreigners and tourists that come in that are like, you know, tatted up, I think a lot of Japanese people will see that and be like, oh, that's cool. I want to get a tattoo. And you'll probably see like tattoo shops sprout like up like everywhere. And I think that's gonna be really cool because I think you'll see some super wacky, cool tattoos come out in Japan very soon.
I think the most awesome part of the tattoo world is that each individual does it for their own individual reasons. Much like appreciating any medium of art, whether it be movies or music, anime or games, tattooing is a personal journey, and now it's time, I guess, for all of you watching this video to come along on my personal journey next. So come with me to Osaka, the western part of Japan, to meet the man who will be giving me my tattoo for today.
So I guess first question I want to ask is, how long have you been tattooing in Japan?
For about 20 years now.
20 years.
Yeah.
And I assume in those 20 years, the tattoo scene in Japan is just completely changed.
It's pretty different than it was. One of the major changes, I think, is that, of course, there's a lot more tourists that are coming through Japan. The demographic, of course, has changed with the generations. Social media has changed everything. There's kind of more of an awareness now that, you know, tattoos are not relegated to, you know, the Yakuza, that they're not some kind of a thing that you get like marked for life.
Right. I've seen your stuff for quite a while now. At least in my mind, you've always been known as like the guy who does like the sick anime style tattoos, right? And you know, it's true. Like I'm sure that's how a lot of people know Benny. But like, what kind of tattoos were you doing before you started doing the more anime style tattoos?
Yeah, I mean, so this is back in like maybe 2002, 2003 when I started apprenticing. It was all like really like Japanese style tattoos,
Like the traditional kind.
dragons, koi fish, phoenixes, you know,
Yeah.
those sorts of things. A lot of flower motifs.
So whenabouts did that shift change to like the more, I guess, otaku centric tattoos?
I think in the beginning it was more of a, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if, like, what if somebody got a tattoo, but it was, you know, there was like a Gundam.
Oh, so it was like a
What if it was
dare.
yeah, almost like that. I mean, it would be more like, we would practice drawing as well, right? And so sometimes, you know, you'd be flipping through each other's sketchbooks and there'd be like a little like fun drawing. Before you know it, yeah, that's when we started kind of experimenting with it.
What's the most common type of like otaku style tattoo that you've done?
Kind of like whatever would be popular in the moment. Like, of course, there's some characters that are more popular than others. Spoiler for the top 3 countdown, but I think it was Remy from Black Lagoon.
Damn.
It's like, yeah.
That's based. One question I wanted to ask is, why did you pick Osaka to do your tattooing as opposed to Tokyo?
It was one of the first cities I ever visited in Japan, and I really fell in love with it. The first time I came to visit was like 1998, 1999, somewhere around there. And then when I came to live here, I remembered that I knew a couple of these tattoo guys, and I was like, man, like when this teaching contract is done, like that's where I want to go.
Right. This is maybe just like my kind of way that I view it, but I feel like people in Osaka maybe, or there's a culture in Osaka that is maybe a little more geared towards tattooing and like that kind of like subculture.
Yeah, I think people in Kansai are just more relaxed. They're more chilled out. Some might say rough around the edges, but you know, I think it's thanks to the people of Kansai that, you know, somebody like me could be, you know, welcomed and accepted.
So
Yeah, I used to do a lot of that.
一番痛いタトゥーは、私はここ入ってないんですけど、手のひらで、みんなここが痛いって言いますね。ああ、わからないですよね。あと背中かな。
あとなんか指も痛いって聞きますね。
指もそうですね。でも私は大丈夫だ。手の甲よりもこれの方が痛かったかなっていう。こんなちっちゃいけどこっちの方が
骨に近いところ。
そう痛いんですかね。
ここですか？耳の後ろ。
耳の頭タトゥー入ってるので、今ちょっと髪の毛が生えてて見えないんですけど、頭も痛いって言いますねみんな。
頭ってどこまで入ってるんですか？
全部ここからなんかヘアラインからこのヘアラインから全部後ろまで入ってます。カラーでベニー今はベニーが首を凝ってくれてます。
キリちゃん全く痛み勘違いして
そうですね、私はどっちかっていうと痛みに強いんで、あんまり参考にならないかもしれない。
ピアスもめっちゃ入れてますね。
そうですね。あんまり参考にならないかもしれないですけど、お客さんは結構なんか、いや背中は痛いよとか言いますけどね。私 私大丈夫だったね。
全く動かない。
あー、ベンさん優しいね。
In the 20 years that you have been doing tattooing, would you say that the types of people you have tattooed have changed?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How's it changed?
I mean, back in the day, it was like really only local people. You know, people that you would like meet out at the bar, or people that would wander into the studio, and people. Lots of word of mouth back then. But of course, social media has completely shifted that dynamic. And then once you start proliferating on places like Instagram and TikTok, then of course people tend to see your work, and they're coming there specifically for your pieces. So a lot of the people who come and get pieces from me now are people who they probably already have like a familiarity with what I do.
What do you think about the, I guess, ongoing stigma that the general Japanese public still has towards tattoos and tattoo culture?
I mean, of course, there's a cultural stigma that goes back a long, long way. And of course, with the proliferation of media, in the 60s and 70s, with a lot of like Yakuza movies and manga, whenever you need shorthand in fiction for a bad guy, you give them a tattoo. And I think now that the culture is definitely shifting.
Do you miss, or have you ever wondered what it's like to go into an onsen?
Yeah, I mean, those rules can be annoying and silly, especially when it comes to things like swimming, and people are like, I don't want to look at it, I don't want my kids exposed to it. And it's like, well, I think it's just been around in the culture for so long, I don't even think people really question where it comes from anymore.
What would you say to those people, I guess those more like traditionalist people who have that traditionalist idea about tattoos? For example, like my mom, who is Japanese, who's probably watching this video, hi mom, does not like tattoos at all.
Sure.
She wanted to kill me the first time I got a tattoo. I've always been curious as to why those people think that way. Why do you think they think that way about tattoos?
Again, I think it's just like how you're raised, when everybody around you thinks the same thing, and then again, when you've grown up like, consuming media where it's portrayed a certain way, I think it just gets in there. And so I guess what I would suggest to somebody, is, keep an open mind about it. But then, there's been other times when I've been out and about, or I've been on the train, or I've been in some random place, and like just like a random like old person, and like I'm an old person too, but like a really old person, right? It's like gonna roll up on me and be like, like, oh, like those are nice tattoos, right? So, and I think there's people who are curious about the world and find it interesting and don't think in stereotypes. And then I think some people, those stereotypes, that shorthand that they use is how they live their lives.
普段なんか出歩いてて、他の人に多分見られると思うんですけど、なんかそういう視線とかってもう慣れました？
ね、あんまりなんか見られてる感じがないんですけど、見られてるって思ったことがあんまりないんですけど、でもすれ違う時とかにタトゥーかっこいいねとか結構褒めてもらうことのが多いです。あと電車の中でおばあちゃんに綺麗なタトゥーみたいなおばあちゃんとかにも褒めてもらうし、
なんかネガティブなイメージとかってないですか？
ネガティブなことは私はあんまり経験はないですね。
Or she's really good at ignoring it.
Maybe. Super insensitive. No, how can I say? Insensitive なんかもしれない。
No. Based and confident.
Yeah. She's mecha based.
Mecha based.
I'm sure you've done thousands and thousands of tattoos in your career. Yeah. What has been the most memorable tattoo in either a good or a bad way?
Oh my god, I don't want to put anybody on blast. And some of these are so hyper specific, it's like somebody would like know like where he's talking about.
Or if you don't want to be hyper specific, maybe like a specific like type of tattoo maybe.
Pretty recently I did a piece for somebody. It was a virtual YouTuber. Like, I'm not quite sure what you would say about it, but his wife had passed away.
Okay.
And this was like, they had really bonded over like watching like this VTuber together. Right. And this VTuber had done a collaboration with something that was like in their prefecture. And so he had gotten this character like with the background that was associated with this place where they lived. Right. And like, it was a very like emotional moment for him. And honestly, I'm fortunate enough that I have a lot of really good stories like that. A lot of people who have brought something very touching in their lives, something that meant something to them.
I guess, don't judge a tattoo just by looking at it, because there's probably like a story behind each and every one. Or maybe not.
Yeah.
Some people just get tattoos for the sake of getting tattoos.
It's true. I mean, I couldn't buy a PlayStation 5 because of the chip shortage, so I got,
So you got a tattoo on your leg?
I could stand not having one. I jumped in the deep end and got my whole body work done. Even though this is one cohesive bodysuit, the forearms only are by two separate artists. So this is by Horishige from Yokohama, and this is by Horitsune III, who is in Neagawa here in Osaka. They're both completely different styles, but they are balanced the same way. So you can see one dragon has the mouth open and one has the mouth closed, which is like an A and an N, an alpha omega kind of a symbolism. They're both by tattooers that I really respect, and because they're on your forearms, I mean, you look at them like every day. When I look at them too, it keeps me humble and reminds me that, even though these tattoos are like 15, 16 years old, that like they hold up amazing. Like they have a lot of amazing flows and details in them. Like I've learned a lot just by looking at these tattoos.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah, these have a very significant memory for me, but yeah.
Oh yeah, and then you also have
I do have an Ikamusume, yes. I've got a couple other jokey ones here too. I think I've got an Akira pill down there.
That one's actually sick.
This is like my apprentice's first tattoo.
What is a red flag tattoo?
Any white power bull? I mean, really beyond anything like hate speech, like what would I be like? Maybe there might be certain anime characters that you're like, or they've got the same character, but it's like, like hundreds and hundreds of times. Oh, I don't know. Maybe they just love it though.
What do you think about people who get cultural tattoos when they have no knowledge of that culture?
Yeah, so I think this goes back to the age-old discussion over what's cultural appropriation and what's cultural appreciation, right? Which is a complex topic. If someone asked me to, I don't know, tattoo something with Hangul or something, I mean, it would be like,
it's like, this looks sick, and it's like, it says wonton.
I admittedly, I have a kanji tattoo. I got Taka and Noriko here tattooed by one of my friends, and one of her famous lines in the anime is "Doryoku to konjo."
Yeah.
Right, and so he put it on the sides of the design.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening though is like when I'm like walking around like with my shorts down, right? Like there's just one poking out, and it's like people are like, "Oh, Chikara for power," and it's like, oh boy, that's not exactly what that was about. But
I guess that's all I need to know. But right after this, I'm gonna get tatted by you.
Yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to it. Let's make a good one. Yeah, thank you.
Let's go up and get it done. Don't drop it on me,
I'll
please.
freehand it.
Shit.
That's all done over there.
God damn, that's a lot.
Any last words?
Sorry, Mom.
Hey! Yay!
Spoon Poon! Finally got the Poon Poon tattoo.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Hell yeah, that looks sick, dude.
Yeah, I gotta help the ink settle. So, this will keep your tattoo from being exposed to the elements. It acts like a scab. So basically your body doesn't have to go to the trouble of making a scab, it can just immediately start healing. So you might see a little bit of kind of black lymph like piling up under there. It might like, ooh, black liquid, gross, but it's totally normal. I don't know if you got that. The same
I got it with this.
Oh, okay, so it's not your first rodeo.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry, I over-explained that to...
No, it's good, it's good. We need it for the video.
Yeah, a little bit of
Yeah,
mansplaining.
so when you finish, you dump the excess liquid into a pouch, and that's your forbidden Capri Sun, and then you
Well, as you can see, it's been a few months since I got my Poon Poon tattoo, and yeah, I think it came out pretty well. Look, admittedly, this probably won't be my last tattoo I'll be getting, but it will be the last time I film it here on a video for you guys because, again, tattooing is a personal journey, and I think that's what makes it kind of awesome. The point of this video isn't to necessarily encourage you, the audience, to get a tattoo of your own. I mean, look, if you want to, then cool, great, go for it. But if you don't want to, that's also completely fine as well. All the differing viewpoints about subcultures is, I think, what keeps a subculture and an art form alive and well and healthy. And I hope you guys at least learned something new about the tattooing experience here in Japan. So a big thank you for watching. I guess let me know what you guys think of my new tattoo. And a big shout out to all the people who I interviewed for this particular video. I will leave all of their socials down in the description below. And hey, I guess regardless of whether you have tattoos on your body or not, let me know your thoughts and opinions on the tattoo subculture in Japan. I think it is an incredibly contentious and interesting discussion to, of course, you know, start and have a healthy conversation about, obviously keeping everything open-minded. So make sure to keep the conversation healthy down in the comments below. But thank you, Horibeni, for giving me a brand new tattoo. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Ja ne.